Morning, folks. KDOT 357 coming to you here. Today is Wednesday, September the 5th, 2018, and I want to continue to bring my series of videos on starting church safety security teams. So they've already done segment 1, so this will be segment 2. And my video is entitled Evil in the Church. And like I said, I do these I do these seminars usually, not always, but usually the last Thursday in every month. So we've got one this month, and I've already got the dates posted on my website at carolinafirearmstraining.com. These seminars are absolutely free, no charge. Usually pastors and church leadership come to these seminars, but anyone is welcome to come to these seminars. So let's continue on. So now we're at statistics. I want to share some statistics with you, and I need to actually update my PowerPoint to reflect the numbers up to today, or as close as we can get to it. And I get those stats from Carl Chinn, that's CHINN, carlchinn.com. So what are these statistics? These statistics I want to share with you are from January 1, 1999 to 12/31/2015. And of course, these numbers have, have gone up since then. They have. Because the Charleston incident isn't on there, and that incident that happened in Texas, of course, isn't on there. So the following are deadly force incidences, or as Carl Chinn refers to them as DFIs, deadly force incidents. In other words, deadly force incidents where there's the likelihood of death, all right? So it's got to be pretty bad situations here. So out of these stats, we're going to be talking about abductions and attempted abductions, attacks, suspicious deaths, suicides, and deadly force intervention protection. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just going off my iPad here. Basically my PowerPoint's pulled up here, and I'm just going off of it in the order that I would normally do it. All right, so the total DFIs, deadly force instances, he took 1,198 cases. And the number of DFIs where the attack resulted in the death of others was 364. That's a lot. Of course, one is too many, but 364 is just incredible. The total known attack triggers, in other words, what basically prompted the incident. And there were 699 of these. 156 of them were domestic violence related. Okay, remember I told you that's a situation that is definitely likely to happen in your church, not necessarily an active shooter, but a domestic violence incident. 156 of those. Personal conflict is 124. In other words, personal conflict to be with a personal conflict with one congregant to another congregant. It could be from someone in the church that has a beef with the pastor. And a lot of times that's what it is. They've got some sort of, beef with the pastor, and they're wanting to settle it, and sometimes they do it in a violent way. Then you have 240 of them are robberies. Okay, robberies could be robbery of tithes and offerings, and or just holdups or what have you. 240, that's a large number. Then you got 90 of them are gang related. All right, yeah, I know on church property. Well, they probably feel it's pretty safe on church property and once they're detected whatever they plan on doing is done. Drug-related, 26 of them are drug-related, same thing. These guys that are doing drug deals probably feel like, a church is a safe place to do a drug deal, as far as not being detected by law enforcement. So the known attack triggers continued. Also, 100 of those 699 were confirmed mental illness, where an individual, perhaps stops taking their medication. And, when I worked as a deputy sheriff, I've taken many involuntary commitments, in other words, where people had to go against their will, where they stopped taking their meds, or something just happened in the brain and they went off. And sometimes these individuals can become violent, so we have to take them into custody, take them straight to a hospital, and take them to a doctor. I'm talking about taking them into custody. I've worked 15 years as a law enforcement officer, but a part of that I worked also as a deputy sheriff. So that's how I know about these involuntary commitments. Religious, so 55 of them were religious bias, any form of religious bias. And then other was 148 of those 699 were random triggers. So in other words, anything else that you can think outside the box were known attack triggers. All right, the number of DFIs, deadly force incidences, occurring based on the top 3 triggers, what do you think they are? All right, number 1 is domestic violence, number 2 is personal conflict, and number 3 is robbery. Like I said, domestic violence is right up there at the top. Now, domestic violence, where somebody perhaps ends up getting shot, is not the same thing as an active shooter. An active shooter just comes in there and tries to see how many people they can kill, how many horizontal targets they can, vertical targets rather they can find. Domestic violence is not that way. Domestic violence would be a situation where maybe some guy comes in, as I said in my previous video, and they want to take their child to get some ice cream, take them to the park or whatever, and they're not supposed to even be on the property because they're not supposed to be near the spouse or girlfriend or the child. And, mom finds out about it and they end up meeting up in the parking lot, and sometimes a weapon is displayed and used. A lot of times that can be a gun or a knife or what have you. All right, the total incidents where the weapon was known, This probably doesn't surprise you. This is out of 1,224 cases that he studied. 703 a firearm was used, or 57% of those incidences a firearm was used. 61%, no, I beg your pardon, 4.2%, or 61 cases, an automobile was used. An automobile, of course, can use as a deadly weapon. A couple of years ago, if that, when I was on duty in Siler City one Sunday morning, right about lunchtime, we got a call that came out about a vehicle that was, an individual was trying to run over congregants at a church, just a couple blocks, probably 3 or 4 blocks away from the police department. So me and my lieutenant headed that way. We got there based on the description of the suspect vehicle and the suspect. When I got to the intersection, the congregants pointed to an intersection, and sure enough, the suspect vehicle was there. I went on, sped on up, and initiated a traffic stop. Long story short, we ended up getting him out of the vehicle, and this individual was off his meds. He was known to be bipolar, schizophrenic, and basically he went there and tried to run the pastor over, asking the pastor ordering the pastor to fall down. He got out of the car and walked up to the pastor and told him to fall down and worship him, and of course, pastor wasn't going to do that. He got back in the car and revved the engine and then drove off. But on two different times during that incident, he tried to run individuals over. So obviously, same thing. He was taken into custody, emergency custody. His mom came there and said, yeah, he takes meds and blah, blah, blah. And about a week later, he saw one of my guys at a Wendy's, and he apologized, saying that he didn't really remember anything much about the incident, and he probably didn't. Like I said, some of these people, when they're off their meds, they can become very violent. Sometimes they're not. But in this case, it could have turned out bad. I think he would have used a firearm if he had one. But instead, he was using his vehicle. 5.68% were explosives were used. Other would be like poisons, beatings, hanging, setting pastors on fire, or various other objects used to assault. That accounted for about 15%. The total killed out of 1,168 cases, 474. Or 42%. Injured was more, that was 59%, or 694. The victims, male, were 64% were male and 35% were female. On the aggressor stats, this is probably not surprising. The male was 91% of the aggressors were male, or 1,116 of those 1,222. Female, 8.5%, or 106. Affiliated member accounted for 22%, or 276. In other words, they were a current member of the church, a past member, or employee, or a volunteer of the church. All right, so that's pretty disturbing right there. That these were actually members. Some of these were members of the church. Okay, of course, the devil likes that. He wants division. I'm gonna finish up because I'm coming up on 10 minutes. Other incident stats. Now, this is very interesting. These bad things, 30% of them occurred inside the buildings. First place I'm thinking is a sanctuary. Other places could be Sunday school buildings, youth buildings, or whatnot, the athletic building or gym or whatever, but most likely these 30% were inside the sanctuary. Now, this is the interesting figure. 69%, let's just say 70%, happen outside on the church property. That's one big reason why you need someone outside patrolling the church property, okay? Because that's your first line of defense, is to stop them before they get inside, okay? And so that tells me that a lot of times these situations were stopped because 70% of this stuff started and ended outside on the church property. Occurred during an event. 40% occurred during an event. So an event would be a Christian concert, a vacation Bible school, any kind of event where it brings a lot of people together. Occurred in the off hours, okay? So maybe some of you churches out there, you have staff that works during the off hours, you have a church secretary, what have you. That was 60%, which is high. Many churches I've been to, you can't just walk in. You have to be buzzed in, which I think is a good idea. You have vagrants out there and stuff that are asking for money, homeless people ask for money, and I understand that. That's fine and well. Many churches have benevolent committees, but you don't really want somebody just to be able to walk in there, because a lot of times if you're not able to meet their need, especially if they're high, that situation could turn violent. Single attackers, 72% of these people acted alone. Many times they don't say what they're fixing to do, they just do it. Multiple attackers account for 27%. So the majority of these bad things that happen, be it active shooter, domestic violence, whatever, involve one individual. All right, I'm going to stop right there at those stats, and my next video will be segment 3. So this is segment 2 of my series on videos that I'm bringing where we help people start church safety security teams. Like I say, these seminars are absolutely free. We do offer a 2-day boot camp that involves a day on the range and a day at your church doing classroom, talking about how to limit liability, and then we finish up the day with scenarios, about a dozen scenarios. And I usually bring a bad guy, not a real bad guy, but a fake bad guy, but he's a real good actor, and run your team through scenarios, and we critique and see what you did right, what you did wrong, and what we can improve on, things like that. All right, I'm at 12 minutes now. So I'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, I may do another short video on this, but my deal for Wednesday and Thursday here at our gun shop is a DB-15, a Diamondback AR-15 for $549. That's a flat top all the way across, M-LOK rail, and then I've got one that's with the carry handle. That's a Palmetto State Armory. It's got the old school foregrip on it. Comes with a magazine. Both of them are adjustable stocks. I got that one for $549 too. It'll be orange tagged. Okay, so, and we got other things that are orange tags in here as well. So, all right, so K.357 signing off. CarolinaFirearmstraining.com. You can check out classes that we got coming up. Remember, we're a full-service firearms training company. 708-5475, 919-708-5475. We are located at 1606 Westover Drive, Sanford, NC 27330. And that's where our seminars are held each month, is here at the gun shop. So I'll see you next time. Stay armed, stay safe.